Let's make some miniature dollhouse furniture using a wooden fan. And welcome to my channel, Notorious Crafts. I have two different styles of fans. Each one has a very different design, which is really nice to make a nice variety of dollhouse miniatures. I'll also put links to where you can find these down below in the description. Each piece of the fan is made from a very thin piece of wood. The very first piece is very thick, which is good for making much more sturdier pieces of furniture. And then I could use some of the thinner ones for more delicate pieces. I'm going to use this wood cutting tool to get really nice clean cuts of wood. I'm also going to use some popsicle stick and different sizes of skewers and toothpicks. It's really easy to take apart the fan. All you have to do is cut the fish wire for each of the panels. And then I'm using my wood cutter to chop off the entire panel. I'm first using the two very thick pieces of wood that were on the ends of the fan, and this will be really great to make a really nice and sturdy shelf. I'm cutting the top part on an angle so that I can get a really nice point. To get the same exact size on the other piece of wood, I'm just tracing the shape that I had cut, and then using the wood cutter to cut the same shape. While this wood design is so pretty, the insides have a lot of really rough edges, so I'm just using this sanding tool that's used for jewelry to sand down the inside rough edges. I can be a bit of a perfectionist, so these rough edges are something that really bothers me. It might not bother some of you. Let me know down below in the comments if this is something that would bother you and you're like me and would have to sand down every single little tiny piece. Next, I'm making the shelves, so I'm just using these jumbo popsicle sticks and then cutting them with my wood cutter. I did end up doing most of the cutting off camera because I needed to use both hands to squeeze the wood tool so that the wood would not go flying all over the place or so that it would not fly in my eye. Maybe I need to start hitting the gym more so that I have enough strength to be able to cut these pieces of wood with one hand. After cutting, I sanded each piece to remove all the rough edges. I'm using a much thinner popsicle stick for the top shelf since my two wood panels get a lot thinner the higher up I go on it. I'm using a wood glue to assemble all of the shelves and to attach them onto the side fan panels. I'm adding the glue directly onto the shelves, and then that way I'll attach them to the side panels. I did place a wood block underneath the shelf so that I can get a nice even surface. And I'll continue adding the rest of the shelves the same exact way. And lastly, I'm going to glue in this bamboo skewer that I cut into a smaller piece, and I'm going to glue it down so it'll stay in place. Now I'm done with my really pretty shelf. Next, I'll make this miniature coffee table. The design on the end of the fan is so pretty. It's almost too pretty to cut, but I already started cutting up the fan, so might as well use it to make some really pretty furniture. I'm going to cut each one at the same length, and this will become the very base of the coffee table. Putting aside the rest of the fan that I'm not using for this piece of furniture, but I'll use it for another idea that I have. I have this circle-shaped piece of wood, and this will be a really great top to use as my coffee table. I'm applying the glue on the very side of the panels, and I'm making sure that the glue will be on the inside of the shape that I'm going to make. I'm going to use a total of 5 panels, and this will make a really nice hexagon shape. Now I'm adding glue to the very last panel, and I was trying to get this done fairly quickly before all of the glue dries so that I could still mold this into the correct shape. I let all of the glue dry so that the shape could harden, and then I added the very top of the table, and now we have a very cute little coffee table. Next, I'll show you how I make this miniature lantern. I'm cutting the more narrow part of this holy wood. It looks a little bit like cheese. The base of the lantern is going to be made from popsicle sticks. I'm adding a small amount of wood glue to the very bottom of the holy wood and then attaching it to the base. And then I'm going to rest my sand block behind it so that the wood doesn't fall over. For the remaining pieces, I'm going to add glue to the sides as well as the bottom. Once all the glue is dry on the side panels, I'm adding the very top piece. For the top panels of the lantern, I'm cutting small pieces of the fan since the wood is really nice and thin. I made a really small square shape from these really thin panels, and then now I'm going to attach it to the top of the lantern using some wood glue. For the very top panel, I'm adding a really thin piece of the fan that I cut into a square shape. For the top handle of the lantern, I'm using this small metal piece of hardware, and I'm going to attach it using some glue. Next up, I'm going to make this small end table. For the side panels, I'm going to use this fan that looks like Swiss cheese. This would be really cute for making some miniature mouse furniture. I am adding glue to the inside of the panels so that when I attach the next panel, you won't be able to see any of the glue from the outside. Lastly, I'm gluing on this square piece of wood on the top, and our end table is done. Next, I'll make this miniature shelf or shoe rack. I'm cutting off the panels from the second fan that I have that also has a really pretty design. I'm going to cut off just the tops of these since the ends of the fan have a really great design that I could use as side panels for my shoe rack. And then sanding down the ends because I do not like crusty pieces of wood. And just doing a quick test fit before I start gluing everything down just to see where I want the panels to go. I'm using some pieces of wood that I will rest the shelf on top of to make sure that the shelf is level as I'm gluing it down. I'm also using the sanding block to keep one of the panels in place, and then I'm also using some more of the wood pieces as the base before I glue the shelf down. And then I'm going to leave this in place for a while so that the glue can dry. Here's the final result of my shoe shelf. Next up, I'm going to make this really pretty chair. I'm going to cut about half of this fan panel and then attach a popsicle stick that'll be the sitting part of the chair. This wood is very delicate, and this design is so intricate. When I tried using the wood cutting tool, it ended up breaking off some of the design pieces. So for these really thin panels with this design, I need to use an X-Acto knife to carefully cut it off. I want the front and the back design of the chair to match, so I'm just lining up this second panel to make sure that I'm cutting it exactly where it needs to be. I'm adding some glue to the seat of the chair and then attaching each of the panels. I'm using the grid lines on my mat to make sure that it is at a perfect 90-degree angle, and then I'm going to attach the back panel. Here's the final result once all of the glue dries. Next, I'm going to make this miniature box. I'm using this small miniature wooden frame, and I'm going to cut out one of the designs that I really like that I think would be really nice to have as a design for a box. I ended up using my scissors to trim the design exactly like how I wanted to, so that it would fit inside the frame of the box. I added some glue that will be facing inside so that it'll not be seen from the outside, and this will also help reinforce the design onto the frame. I trimmed some popsicle sticks into much smaller pieces, and this will be the base of the box. The bottom of the box will also be a popsicle stick that I trimmed down. I'm adding some miniature metal hinges so that the box can open and close. I glued down one of the hinges on the inside of the box, and then I'm going to add some more glue to attach the top lid. And then I'm going to let it dry for a while. And here's the final result of all of the furniture that I made from these wooden fans. I love how these designs really elevated these pieces of furniture. There are so many ways that you can use these really pretty wooden panels from the fans. You can decorate so many things from them. Let me know which of these items that I made from the fan was your favorite. I do think they would look really nice if I actually painted them. So I ended up painting the lantern. I think it just would look so pretty if it was in another color like a dark gray or even a black. Here's how the lantern looks painted. I do think it looks a lot better. I wish that I had painted it on the inside as well, since you can see that the inside is really light. It would also look really cool if it actually had some light inside. As always, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you guys in the next video.